Hello, beautiful. I've so enjoyed in the last couple of months reposting some of my older interviews with people. And this one comes from January of this year. So, it feels like it's basically a year ago at this point. But I really wanted to repost and reshare this conversation that I had with Natasha Mila. She is such an incredible woman. She's a mother. Her and I both have just a lot to say about dropping the mom guilt and embracing ease. And we had this really great conversation. And I thought that you guys should really hear it because it's all still totally relevant. Overcoming mom guilt is always relevant, right? It's a work in progress. It's something that's never going to cross a finish line. I don't think we can ever be done with mom guilt permanently forever. But I think we can totally get it under control and we can keep it in check. And it's embracing conversations like this and just immersing yourself into it all that I think really keeps it at bay, keeps you in control. And I want to let you know, Natasha Mila, she is self-described as an imperfect mom of three, a writer, photographer, amateur of a lot of things, trying to make her life run smoother, but constantly being smacked in the face by reality. She is the author of the Stay Curious Substack publication. At the time that we originally recorded this conversation, she was hosting her own podcast, which she is currently not doing. Instead, she has transitioned to more of the blogger sphere, blogging on the Stay Curious Substack publication. And I will provide her new links for you below. And I really hope you just enjoy this conversation and let us know, comment, message us back. You can find her on natashamila.com. You can email her and get a hold of her as well. And just let us know what you're thinking. Go follow her blog. Let us know what resonates with you and what you want to hear even more of, All right. Thanks, friend. I hope you really enjoy. Why don't we go ahead and start with you introducing yourself?
Perfect. Sounds good. So my name is Natasha Mila. That's actually my middle name, but that's what I go by. And I just started a website. It's just my name, natashamila.com. And I have a podcast, Just Mom, Gist Mom. And yeah, I used to be a 4K teacher for the last, like a couple years ago for 5 years. And now I'm staying at home with our three little kids. They're three. Our oldest is 3, Lainey. Our middle is going to be 2 at the end of January. Her name's Dakota. And our youngest is Grayson, and he is almost 6 months old. He'll be 6 months old in a couple days, actually. Yeah, 2 days. In 2 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun stuff.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I think I might have the same age gaps between my kids.
Oh, okay. That's crazy. Yeah, it's kind of wild, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
right.
how old are your kids?
My youngest is going to be 3 in February.
Okay.
My oldest turned 6 in October, and the middle one
Okay.
is 4 right now.
So
It
fun.
is. It is so fun.
Yeah, that's very close together. How do you
Yeah.
like it now that they're a little bit older? You're like at the next stage up.
Right. I love it. I do. It's really exciting, like being out of the baby phase with all of them.
Yes. Yes.
Like, yeah, it's a whole new world. It is so fun.
Yeah, that's nice. I love snuggly babies, but they are exhausting. I'm not a really huge fan of the baby year.
Right. Yes. I like when they're like 2 and they still kind of want to snuggle like a baby, but also they can totally play independently and like you could just put snacks in front of them and they're like, "Yep, cool. I'm good to go. I don't need
Yeah.
you to hold me and feed me."
Oh, right, exactly. And other people are a lot more comfortable like watching them for a couple hours here and there when they get past the baby year too. So that helps a lot.
Yeah, a little less fragile.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Did you
Okay,
want to do you want to introduce yourself?
yeah, I was gonna say we should probably have a clip of me talking about me.
Yeah,
Um,
perfect.
so I am Brittany Clarkson. I'm the owner of Meant to Bloom, the host of the Meant to Bloom podcast. Um, my focus is really on encouraging moms in their mental health and to prioritize that over all the mundane things, the dishes, the laundry. And that's really where my heart is. I live in rural Oregon with my 3 little boys and my husband, and, uh, I mean, yeah, that's my life. That's simple, that's easy,
Mhm.
that's where I'm at right now.
Fun. Awesome.
Um,
Awesome. I listened to like a couple of your podcasts. So, and you used to be called something else, I think, right? Did you have like a different name?
it's a funny story.
Yeah. And then you kind of did like a little transformation and now you're meant to bloom. It seems like the last like couple episodes it sounds like I must have listened like right at that cusp of you changing and on. And it sounds like you're really confident in this current role. Like this is like where you're supposed to be.
Yeah, it's actually where I started. That's what's funny
Okay.
about that, is that I started a podcast last year
Yeah.
called Meant to Bloom. But I was transitioning out of being a blogger into a podcaster, and things were kind of awkward. And I was like reading a lot instead of speaking. And people could really tell, like, I had friends tell me that like, once I started podcasting and not just reading my blog, they were like, I can really tell like the change in your voice. Like, there's so much more passion and emotion in it now. You've really
Yeah.
grown and developed. And I was like, yeah, it's because I stopped reading out loud. Like, I was just reading things I'd written a year before. And that
Oh,
podcast was called Meant to Bloom. And then once I kind of like figured out how to podcast, I was like, I'm gonna relaunch. It's time for something new. Let's rebrand. And I changed the name, and I had a lot of positive feedback about it from people. But after, so many episodes, I was just like, this doesn't feel fun to like tell people I'm the host of the I Get To podcast. It doesn't sound the way Meant to Bloom podcast sounded. I was like,
yeah.
I need to go back to that. Like I stole my own name back.
Like 2.0, like meant to bloom 2.0.
Yeah,
Fun.
yeah. So yeah, it definitely does feel like where I'm supposed to be, but it was a long story of getting here.
Yeah. That sounds like everybody's life, right? Like once you get
Right.
to that point, you're like, oh, it seems so simple, but now hindsight, right? Always hindsight.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and you've only been podcasting a little bit, yeah.
What did you say?
You like just started your podcast like a couple months ago or something?
Yeah, for sure. I
Okay.
like just released a couple episodes. I just recorded two new ones yesterday, actually. So hopefully I just have to edit them and put them out. But yeah, I've had this in the works for like a really long time. I've always been a blogger, but I just kept changing the type of blog I had, not because I didn't like what I was blogging about, but just because the season of my life kept changing, right? So, like, I started way back in college, I just wrote like random stuff on there, because it's circa that year.
Same.
People just wrote random things online, right? But then it evolved into so like my undergrad, I worked at while I was in undergrad, I actually worked in a 4K classroom at a private school there. And so I started doing like kid activities, but it just wasn't really what I wanted to be talking about. Like I sure could come up with 8 more kid activities, but there's like a plethora of them on the internet. So I was like, I don't want to add to this noise. Like it's just not what I want
Yeah.
to do. But what I wanted to talk about was like the other kind of stuff about kids, but I just didn't feel like I was there yet because I wasn't also a parent, right?
Hmm.
So then I kind of changed gear and we are big like backpacker outside people. I then wrote about our trips backpacking really just for fun again. And then when I was a teacher, I did like a teacher blog for my parents of like the kids' parents of our classroom. So we just kind of have done I've always typed words onto the internet. But now I feel like I have things to say that I've wanted to say for a while, and I like to talk. So I thought a podcast is a great way to do that. And honestly, that's like how I, as a mom with very little time, consume a lot of information is podcasts or
Hmm.
audiobooks and stuff because you can just stick one earbud in and do the dishes and whatever else you need to do. So that's who I'm writing to. So I wanted to cater to that need of a mom that's very busy. And so I want to have that long format on the blog still, but then talk about it in a podcast form. And I think it's a little bit more relatable too when you can hear somebody actually saying it out loud. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Absolutely. And I feel like tone gets like misunderstood less often on a podcast.
Oh, for sure. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. I mean, yeah, you can't misunderstand. Well, you kind of can, I guess, if you don't know that
A
person,
little bit.
you don't know their
Right.
intention, but yeah. But for the most part, yeah, you can tell.
Yeah. I tend to write like, I don't know, kind of sarcastically or satirically a little bit sometimes.
Sure.
And I
Yeah.
didn't realize that for like years of blogging and not realizing like people could really be misunderstanding this when I
Yeah.
go back and read it without the tone of my voice.
Yeah. And
That's
sometimes
definitely been a bit.
right. And sometimes like the headspace you're in too, like I write an email, like a weekly email to my email subscribers, and I have a lot of fun with it. And I put like a lot of gifts in there. Is that how you say that word? Gifts? A lot of
Mhm.
gifts in there and like fun stuff. And so like the headspace that you're in, you're like, this is funny and it's very entertaining. But then like if you go back months later, you're like, okay, does that even really make sense? Hopefully that made sense to everybody at the time, but it's a little confusing.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully they got the joke, but yeah, but thank God for gifts, right? Because they really add to that. Like, I am making a joke.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Those are my favorite. The
Yeah.
gifts. I hear people say it's GIF and
I
I
don't
hate
know.
that.
I don't
So
know how
I'm
to.
on the GIF train. I
Yeah.
am.
Whatever. Yeah.
GIF is peanut butter. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's a J. Yeah.
that's how
Yeah.
I see it.
Sure. Uh huh.
So
Yeah.
for anyone listening, we're in agreement. It's GIF.
Yeah. So we must be right. Two people agree. So that must be
Right.
what
In this corner of the internet, we're going with GIF.
hmm
And they're the best. Um, all right. So let's dig in to what we're
Yeah.
really here to chat about. Letting things be easy without feeling guilt about it. And, especially as moms, like, wow, guilt comes easy and ease does not.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, that's true. Very true. Yeah, I was gonna like make a couple notes about guilt. So like we're constantly setting priorities and changing those priorities, right? Like depending on the size of that priority, you might be like changing the order of importance and by day or by year or by minute, really, like what's important to you that day. Um, so like for example, like family comes first for a lot of people, right? But like what does that actually mean and what does that actually look like for you that
Mhm.
day? So like one day that might mean you're like prioritizing healthy meals and getting everybody outside and spending a lot of time together. And like another day that might mean you have to tackle that 75 things on your to-do list. So it might mean your kids are watching TV for 2 hours that day, right? So both things still mean that you're prioritizing your family. It just looks a little bit different. Um, and so I guess those like constantly shifting priorities, you only have so much time in your day to do a priority. And so what that means is going to look different. And so I guess you're always going to feel that guilt, right? So I guess instead of saying like you're going to be not feeling guilt at all about certain things that you make easy, you're just kind of living with it like despite your guilt. Like you're just saying, okay, I feel a little guilty about it, but I'm letting that go. And this is just where I'm at. And this is just what we have to do in order for these priorities to kind of line up for the day. So getting to that point where you feel a little better about the guilt that you're living with, right?
Yeah, that's interesting
hmm
because I view guilt a little bit differently,
Okay,
as
let me
in,
know that.
I feel like I've kind of divorced guilt.
Oh, yeah, you're just like,
Like,
I don't do guilt.
I'm just like, every time it tries to come back in the door, I'm just like, no, we changed the locks. You're not allowed here.
Yeah,
Um, I don't want you in my life anymore. And
yeah,
so I won't let it, like have a seat at the table.
yeah,
And mostly it's because the way I view guilt is just, it doesn't help.
sure. So, okay, so that's so interesting because I am like totally the opposite. Like, I actually feel like it motivates me a little bit.
Mhm.
So, okay, I wanna hear your side, and then I'll kind of, like, rebuttal you a little.
Yeah. Okay, now that you said that, I think it's a personality type difference kinda
Sure.
thing maybe.
Mhm, mhm,
Because to me, guilt I also have this, like I have trouble with moderation when it comes to
mhm.
pretty much anything, and I have this long history of depression and anxiety that is very much rooted in allowing negative thoughts to take hold and to believe them as true. And
Sure.
so when guilt tries to come in, it immediately is trying to convince me, like, you're a really bad mom for this. You shouldn't even try. You need to give up right now. Um, and then it'll just like start trying to get every single area of my life. And so that's why I've had to be like, once it starts to come in, I have to remind myself that's not going to help me get this done. It's
Yeah,
going to distract me from doing it. And it's just going to make me feel bad about it. And it's not really like a motivating factor for me. So I think that's
yeah.
interesting that it motivates you.
Yeah, no, that's totally interesting. It's like an antagonist for you. You're like, please do not enter my space because you are a problem for me. So go away. And this is just what I'm doing. You like stop it at the door. Yeah, I a little differently, I guess. I don't mind it being in the room. Like I'm like, okay, you can come in the door. Like I see you, I hear you. But I feel like because the things that I feel guilty about, the reason I feel guilty about them is because they are actually still on my priority list. Like, I feel guilty about things like healthy eating or finances or like spending time and whatever. So, those are all still things that are like on my priority list. What's up, Dakota? You can open it up for a second. What do you need? Okay, well, go back over in the living room if you don't need anything. Um, okay, so I do like not mind when guilt's around just because I feel like I like to keep those priorities in the back of my mind and be like they are important to me, like I haven't forgotten that I want to be better in those areas of my life, but I just don't have the time and energy to do all of the things to make that end goal of that priority happen yet. Like one day I'll like I always kind of view guilt as like like a little push. Like I'm like working my way to be better in certain areas. So it's always like pushing me to be better instead of just like stopping and being like totally like letting all these things go, right? Like it's always in the back of your mind, like, oh, I I want to be better at healthy eating, but I just don't have time to make healthy snacks today and it's okay. But yeah, so I don't want to like totally forget about those things that are important to me, but I understand the amount of time that I have and like my capacity for the season that I'm in, I guess.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And what I'm feeling like I'm hearing is that your voice of guilt is a lot nicer than my voice of guilt.
Yeah, it does sound like that. Yeah. Yeah, it just kind of sits and waits by the door and yours is like yelling at you.
Yeah, yeah, mine's not really here to help.
No. No.
All right.
Yeah, yours puts like it sounds like yours puts like negative thoughts into your head where mine is like, okay, remember, I'm here, but I'll let you go for a minute.
Right.
But, like, I'm still here. I'm just sitting, waiting. And
Right.
yours is like, all these terrible things are gonna happen to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine feels more like it's a mean girl.
Yeah.
Just wants to tear me down and send me down a spiral. And yours seems like almost more like a coaching role. Like you need to get to this. Like maybe it might be nagging you, but it's not trying to hurt you.
Right, exactly.
That's interesting. I'm glad to have this chat with the different viewpoint and the different experience of how guilt actually like feels and sounds.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
that's really neat.
Okay, I'm gonna quick send her into the living room again.
Okay.
Come on, let's go by your sister. Okay? Go by your sissy. I'll be out there in a second, okay? You go finish watching your show. Okay, I'll come out in a minute, okay? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so do you do anything that you have, like, made easier in your life that you are letting guilt go?
I mean, basically, I've let guilt go on everything every time it tries to come in. Um, Specifically, a lot of it revolves around home care and cooking dinner. Uh, because I felt this need to overcomplicate these things and not let them be easy for so long. And I'm not good at either of them. So that was not a healthy combination to put a huge priority on, like, I need to have my house totally clean. And I'm not someone who's good at cleaning. And I wasn't at the time someone who was willing to ask for help from anybody, whether it's hiring help or, asking my mom to come in and help or asking my husband to help out more than he already does. Like, I was unwilling. I was like, this is my role that I chose when I begged to stay home from work before having kids. And I was like, this was the agreement that I made that was all my choice and my decision. And so I took all that on and I put a lot of pressure and expectation on myself with keeping a kitchen clean and having a perfectly balanced hot meal ready. And I mean, this predates me even having kids. This is like me being a stay-at-home wife. And I was like, it's just me at home all day with two dogs and a couple cats, and I can't do this. And so the guilt was really getting to me that, like, I couldn't keep up with the kitchen. And I never took into factoring the fact that I was seriously struggling with depression and anxiety. Didn't know at the time that I very much have a lot of traits of ADHD. Um, like it's like everything like inside my head is against me to get this done, and yet I'm making it the number one priority in my life and thinking that I'm a complete failure if I don't do it.
Sure.
And so I had like that time with my husband coming in the kitchen and finding me crying because I just was having a major panic attack while trying to cook dinner in a messy kitchen that I had already spent like half an hour trying to catch up on and clean. And he's like, well, why are you even making dinner tonight? Why don't you just pull out the frozen lasagna in the freezer? I was like, because that's too easy. I can't do that. That's not enough work for you. Like, that's not good enough. And he's like, I'd be fine with pizza. The agreement was just that if I come home from work after a long day, that I'm not the one who cooks dinner anymore. Like, it's like he didn't care the quality of the food. He just wanted something done because I said something would be done. And when you come home hungry expecting food, you're hungry expecting food. He was not asking for, Betty Crocker, Rachel Ray quality meals. He was like, fine if you order food, like just have something ready, have something in the oven. And the thing about the lasagna was it wasn't even a store-bought lasagna that I was having trouble with. It was a lasagna that I had made myself and put in the freezer. I'm like, I did put in the work weeks ago, and I still feel like it's not enough.
Yeah,
And
you were
that was really when it hit me. I was like, this is not a healthy mindset that I have.
yeah.
There is something wrong, like some bridge not being gapped in my brain that says it's okay to have an easy to prepare dinner.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's so funny that you even made the lasagna. Like, it wasn't even really that easy, like, you had already done
Right.
the full cooking of the lasagna. Were you thinking, like, I was home all day, so I should make the meal instead of, like, and that should be saved for, like, a day when we're out, really, really busy.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I
That's
think back to that every time I'm really trying to let things get super hard. Or
yeah.
I finally did hire someone to come in and deep clean the house because after like 6 years of being in charge of cleaning the house, I realized I'm never going to get to the window tracks. I'm not going to get, if I haven't done it yet, I'm not going to get to it. I need someone to come in and do that. And that ended up being one of the best days ever because I took the time that they were in the house. I took all the kids out and played with them at the park. And I
Sure.
actually played with them because I wasn't stressed about going home and doing everything that I wasn't doing while I was at the park. So I'm like, someone else is doing it finally. And I can just enjoy this moment with my kids. And that was just the best thing. And so I try to remember those kinds of things every time the guilt wants to come in and be like, we're not doing the lasagna thing again. This there's better ways to spend my time. I can actually enjoy this moment if I push guilt out instead of sitting here, trying to play with my kids, but having that guilt that there's dishes on the sink. Um, like I struggled with that for so long. The whole like, well, the dishes can wait. I was like, yeah, they'll be sitting there waiting, and I'll have this guilt the whole time nagging at me. I know they're waiting. They're waiting for me. It's not a good thing that they're waiting. And it feels like
Yeah, no, definitely. Right. I do like have a problem have have a problem with those words that are said like, oh, just, forget about them. And you're like, forget about it. Like, how does somebody just forget about it? Like, it's always there in the back of your head. Like, it's a task that I have to do that got added to my to-do list. Like, it's still there. Even if you
right.
wrote it down, it's still there. You still have to do it. But yeah, definitely. That's nice. Like that you recognized that I think it's great that you have that significant story too, to like kind of go back on and be like, nope, no more lasagna story. It's not happening again. So that you have something to hold on to every time that kind of sneaks up on you for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we've talked about, my guilt isn't like a antagonizer. Like it's kind of, I recognize that it's there, but I just kind of accept that it is just like I'm just gonna have to live despite the guilt, basically. So I'm just living with it in the back of my head instead of making me unable to do like anything really. Because yeah, sometimes guilt can totally be paralyzing, right? Like it just
Yes.
prevents you from doing all of the things instead of tackling one at a time. But you're just like, I have so many things that I'm prioritizing, and so I'm just gonna do none of them. um, but yeah, we just like I said, I can kind of categorize the areas of things that I feel a little guilty about because I always do prioritize or I want to prioritize them, but you can't prioritize everything, right? Especially if you're like an idea person, you just have a million ideas and you will not be able to
Hmm.
deal with them, right? And I think I kind of touched on it before too, like that sometimes you have a priority like I want to be healthy or I want to spend time with my kids, but like you can't spend 24 hours with them and you can't only prioritize your health, right? So the end goal of those things is something that you're working towards and you're not there yet, right? So you aren't going to feel like you've met that priority for a really long time if ever, right? You're just kind of always in the movement towards this thing. But yeah, so one of the things is like healthy eating, right? And so
Hmm.
our kids our two older girls go to dance class on Monday nights. And I don't really feel bad about this, even though I feel like partly sometimes you feel guilty when you think that there's onlookers that are judging you, right?
Right.
So we go to dance class and it's right over dinner time. And so there's this break in between both girls' dance classes, and that's when we eat dinner at the dance studio. And I bring very unhealthy, random foods. I always think in my head I'm gonna have enough time to like prep something a little nicer, and it's been like a year of it, and I have yet to do so. So I've accepted the fact that we're just eating garbage on Monday nights for
Right.
dinner. And I bring paper plates and I put it in Ziploc baggies, like plastic Ziploc baggies. And something that's important to me besides the healthy eating is the like waste that we have in our house, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
I would prefer to bring it in like containers and hold on one second. Girls, go. Thank you. Or she keeps slamming the door on me. So I'd prefer to like bring it in containers and have this healthy snacks that we're eating or healthy dinner that we're eating, but we don't. And there is another mom that sits there at the same time, and she does always have like the nice, like reusable containers and definitely much more healthy foods, right? So I feel like that guilt can creep back like to the front of your mind. So like mine's always kind of hidden. You've like, you're like, I don't do guilt, right?
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Mine is like always, it's there, it's in the back of my head. So, but it totally creeps back to the forefront when it is like visible, like I
Right.
am looking at another human being doing what I want to be doing, but I didn't do that. And so then that guilt is kind of there. And so it is something where you just have to be like, I didn't prioritize that today. So I'm not going to do guilt about that today because
Yeah.
I made that choice. And that is the choice that I'm going to stay confident with. Like I was confident with it before we left the house because it's easy and I needed it to be easy today. But yeah. So just kind of those kind of things are, I've let them go because yeah, three little teeny babies, you need to make your life easier. And
Right.
yeah, like things, all of those like wasteful things that I dreamed in my head before I came a mom, like I'm gonna do cloth diapers, and then my kid went to daycare for the first year, and I was like, I'm not doing that, and I just now 3 kids in, we are still using disposable diapers, and I'm like, you know, something that I
Yeah.
have a slight amount of guilt about, but I'm like, it is what we do.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I like that language. I think like maybe I was listening to do you know the Gold Digger podcast, like Jenna Kutcher at all?
I am familiar. I think I might be subscribed, but I haven't listened in a while.
Sure. I think like not too long ago, I think it was her podcast, but I was listening to an episode and the words that they used where they were talking about making statements like that were a little bit more definitive. Like, I'm pretty sure they literally used the words, I don't do guilt. Like, somebody made that specific sentence in there. But I like that language because it's just like, you're really raring and ready to go with the confidence of like, I don't do this today. I'm not doing
Mhm.
guilt today. I'm not concerned about wasteful diapers. I'm not worried about using plastic bags and throwaway plates. Like it is what it is today.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah. I listen to the Purpose Show with Ali Casaza a lot.
sure. Yeah.
And the language she uses is I'm not available for this. Like I'm not available to feel stressed about this right now. I'm not
Yeah.
available to let those emotions take the front seat. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, language
Yeah.
can be so
Don't have the
important. I
mental
mean, that can
space
be a
for
whole
them.
episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, was there any last notes you wanted to add in here? We have 2 minutes before it cuts me off.
Oh yeah. Um, no, I really don't think so. I think just yeah, I think just like really knowing that season that you're in, um, and just like you said, what space you have available and how much you can handle. And as soon as it starts to like cause that guilt, cause that crazy anxiety to sneak up on you, that's when you have to be like, like you said, I'm not available, or I don't do this today because I don't have room, I don't have time to tackle that on and add that to my to-do list today. So um, how can I make my life a little bit easier despite my guilt, right?
Yeah. All right. I love that. Um, Our Zoom meeting's going to be up in 1.5 minutes. As I never upgraded to Pro.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could tack on
No, that's okay.
and just really quick say where like my followers could find you.
Oh, sure, sure. Yeah, you can find me at natashamila.com. That's the easiest place. Or I hang out on Instagram a lot. So underscore Natasha Mila underscore is my handle. And how about you? Where can we find you?
Awesome. I'll have a page set up at my website, brittanyclarkson.com. If you go /gist mom, I will put links to all the types of related things to what we've chatted about today.
Perfect.
And then you'll be able to find podcast Instagram there too. So
Awesome. Thank you so much.
yeah.